Welcome back to the channel. All right, it's time for the September update to the general tier list, right? This is one where we go over battlegrounds, war, just general use. All of that goes in, it's put together. The spreadsheet wizards have made this like an amazing, amazing spreadsheet. Like, listen, if you don't like Alliance War, you just remove it, right? And you'll see it. If you don't like battlegrounds, you can just remove it. This is totally configurable for how you are playing the game. Myself, the MCoC Illuminati, and the spreadsheet wizards all give our advice, our opinion, our experience, all the things we're seeing in the game to go ahead and make this up. And the last thing I think I want to say before we just fully dive into this is, you know, we've been doing this for over 4 years, and it was so amazing to even have Kabam Crash come in and say, like, this is what he uses, is what he gives to designers when they ask for a tier list. But
yeah, I use the sheet. Your tier list is the one that I use internally, and then I give to other designers when they ask me for a tier list.
What I really want to confirm here for all of you, because I get questions on this all the time as more and more viewers come in, is like, we only rank the champions that are worth ranking. If we don't, it's just taking up time that we could be talking about the good champions that are worth ranking. It's taking up space and makes the emojis more confusing. And so if they ever get buffed, we'll put them up here, right? And you're going to see that today is champions fall into the meta and fall up in the meta too, as they become more and more valuable based on the nodes, defenders, and things that we are seeing in the game if they're available as a 7-star. And then also last is rank up the champion that you like, that you enjoy playing. As long as they're within a reasonable difference, you're going to get better results out of the champion that you know how to play better. You can see I've been doing this for well over 4 years now, and we've been saying that almost since the very beginning. And it's really cool for me a couple of years to start seeing the rest of the community really catch on to that idea, not just because it's fun, but also because you truly will know how to play them better. And when the defender in the node gets tougher, you're not going to have to think as much, and therefore your reflexes will be quicker, and you're going to do significantly better. All right, we're going to cover the 2 new champions that came out. We're going to cover some of those new 7-stars that we've all been getting, and then just cover all the various meta changes as we go. Remember, this spreadsheet is linked in the description. Make your own copy, and then you'll be able to configure it. I think we've got all the housekeeping out of the way. Let's jump into it. We're going to talk about all the champions that have the microphone near them. And we're starting off in the Mystic class. First champ we're going to talk about is Tigra. She moved down. She lost a point in the Battlegrounds tier list. When that comes out in about a week's time, you'll see that she lost a single point. She's still one of the best attackers of the game. She's still a phenomenal attacker. She still can take 7-star and 6-star serpents. What it is, and we've been talking about this at length, is that 7-star rank 3s are becoming more and more common, or 7-star more highly ranked for whatever level you're playing at, right? If you're playing at some of the not as high Mysterium Quantum tiers of Battlegrounds, maybe you're not coming in with a 6-star rank 5 Ascended Tiger. So whatever it is you're competing with, she's just taking more chip damage. Her damage isn't quite as amazing as it was. She is still phenomenal. But when we're giving rank up advice and when we're reflecting battleground usage, war usage, and general question usage, you know, 9.1, the health pools grew significantly. It's important that we reflect their meta usage as well, not just like their kit and the things that are powerful about them, right? So she moved down slightly, just pointing that out, something to continue to keep an eye on. Keep an eye out for a video from me kind of on this very topic, actually coming out really soon. Serpent's going to be on the cover and some other champions. Now moving into the heck yeah tier, right? There's no changes there. And if you're unfamiliar with this, those tiers, essentially the best, the heck yeah, yes. The most common question we get asked as YouTubers is, should I rank up this champion? If our immediate reaction is yes, which is what the super hot's going to be, that's kind of how you end up in that tier as far as the way we looked at the scores, okay? The first champion we're talking about, this is one of the newest champion in MCoC, is none other than Shathra. Now, I did a video on Shathra. I really like her. I like her a lot. I think her loop is I think it's well defined and it's relatively well protected, meaning that she got a very high flow score. Her budget score is really good. But the one thing that I just could not test because it was CCP server was, how good is her damage specifically for Battlegrounds? I think it's going to be good enough in War. I think it's going to be good enough in questing. As the health pools grow, I think she may have a little bit of, not difficulty, but she doesn't ramp up and then stay ramped like a Shuri or someone like that. And also her damage isn't consistent throughout the fight. It ramps and then it doesn't fully reset, but it does take a step back. However, you can get the power steal going very fast. If you can get enough of the vulnerabilities up with some relatively high skilled play, your damage is going to be very good. She has absolutely no immunities, and I think that's going to hold her back a little bit in War, because outside of Atrophy, and I do think Atrophy is insanely powerful. If you have any questions about this, click the link or just head directly to my channel. You can see it. I think it's a really good video. I tested her quite a bit. Atrophy is insanely powerful. It's very similar to what Mojo did. In fact, Misty K, who's been doing my thumbnails for me, pointed out that that's actually where the sign for Atrophy came from, was the thumb down on Mojo. And remember, you got to go back a couple of years, but I still really like Mojo, but I talked about how powerful that was as an ability because it's helping you handle buffs on the defender that have a duration. And we're seeing that Serpent, Hulkling, right? These defenders are coming out and these attackers are coming out with these sorts of buffs. If Shathra's damage ends up being as good as I hope it might be, she's going to move up. She's going to move up. If she's taking Serpents in Battlegrounds, and I think she is, I've been very tempted to do an opening for her just so I can get her and test her on the live server for you all. I'm very tempted to do it. But she's going to be in the Titan Crystal here in just like 26 days. I feel like the prudent move is to go ahead and wait. Then we can all test it if someone pulls it. As I said, I don't see her moving down. I do see her potentially moving to the Scorching tier if we realize her damage is going to be good enough where she is a very realistic, relatively hard counter to Serpent in Battlegrounds, because I think she's going to be pretty good in questing. I don't think she's going to be great in war due to the lack of immunities. No, she doesn't handle evade or auto block. She does have an unblockable, but still, or miss or anything like that. So even without any of that, super hot tier, it feels great for her. I feel very, very comfortable and confident in that in there. The next last champion we'll talk about in the Mystic class is in the hot tier, which is Man-Thing. Jaeger took his Man-Thing, I believe, to rank 2. I don't think it was all the way to rank 3. We're going to see Man-Things a lot in Battlegrounds with this upcoming Crit Me meta. Man-Thing always comes out in the Crit Me meta, right? Because he, I think he reduces any additional damage that would normally come from crit, right? I think he just zeroes that out. He has a really nice loop. If you spec into Mystic Dispersion, the worst thing that can sometimes happen is you get pushed all the way to Special 3. But once you get that going, you end up with this really nice loop of heavies and specials and heavies and specials. The damage is actually not bad. Jaeger used his to get a relatively good score. It's not phenomenal, relatively good score against a Serpent. We reflected that because now that you're able to have them 7-star rank 2 with the 7-star challenge rating and all those things, I think it was worth giving him a little bit of a push up in Battlegrounds as not only a defender, but as a possible emergency attacker, and then also in just your general questing and things like that, because he's not going to get that punishment now, or at least he's going to get the benefits of being a 7-star, not just by virtue of being a 7-star, but also the benefits that are given to 7-stars in questing as a result. So moved up to the yes tier. If you enjoy Man-Thing, you got there, have a really, really nice time. All right, let's go ahead and move on to Mutant. Moving on to Mutant, there's no brand new champions into the game. Well, I guess Magneto White could be considered that if you think about it as a 7-star, but we're just going to reflect some kind of meta changes and some adjustments that are being made. Dust, there was a slight adjustment in not only her score in Battlegrounds, but where we had her classified. We've moved her to more of a defender. We're going to keep our eye on that, though, and the reason is that she does appear to be bugged right now as far as how quickly she's ramping to get skill champions. I've recently taken my Dust to rank 2. I do think she's great. I think she's a phenomenal quester. All those immunities, a phenomenal war attacker. So that's all great. If Battlegrounds isn't your thing, I wouldn't worry about this in any way, shape, or form. The thing is, in Battlegrounds, she's still a very good defender, right? She's got all these resistances. You got to be very mindful about how often you're hitting her if she's awakened. She gets the sand on you. Bad things happen. So she's still a tough defender. You can see we have not really, like, quote unquote, moved her down. I just wanted to call that out for people who are really paying for detailed and all the full-on nuance of this video every single month. I appreciate you, and I want to make sure you're aware that we're aware of these sorts of things too, and I call them out for you. The other one is Bishop. Now, I have done the every other month updates to the best champions to awaken, best 7-stars to rank, and the best 6-stars and 5-stars to rank and ascend. And the Saga Stones too. And one of the things I've called out is that I still think Bishop is really good. I know, though, and I was aware that people just aren't as excited about him anymore. His buff was a really long time ago, and we've had some very hard counters come out, not only in Infamous Iron Man, but then, of course, regular OG Iron Man, Tony Stark, and other champions you can get around him, Shocker and things like that. So I do think his defensive power has gone down a little bit. In war, I think he's just not being used as often. And a lot of this is due to, we had a long drought in the Mutant class with new champions coming out. I mean, it was like Toad. I mean, I'm just not a big Toad fan, okay? Good champion, I'm just not a fan. But that really wasn't impinging upon anything Bishop did. Bishop was actually punishing champions for shrugging his debuffs and things like that. Really nice SB2. Just isn't always crit. The 7-star can help balance that out a little bit. But now we're starting to get more mutants. Nexon Teenage Warhead, right? Danny Moonstar, Dust, with all those immunities and some defensive power. If you're interested in battlegrounds, all those immunities I think are very helpful in war. And then the big daddy, the big papa, the best one in the bunch, Onslaught. And that is really infringing upon Bishop's value as far as like meta scores and things like that when we go to analyze them. If you're coming up in the game, though, and you pull a Bishop, I think you can rank him and feel great about it if you need what he's doing. We're still in the scorching tier. It's always hard for me when a champion's moving down and they're still so highly rated, because I want to make it abundantly clear. They are still excellent. It's just if you're choosing between Onslaught and Bishop, I think you want to go Onslaught. If you're choosing between Negason and Teenage Warrior and Bishop, you got to think about how this is going. But if you like Negason and Teenage Warrior, I would probably go with Negason and Teenage Warhead as well, especially because even in Battlegrounds, Bishop's defensive power is starting to go down because there's more tech options available to actually take him, and people that aren't me have gotten very good at evading his SP2, which was a lot of his defensive scare. Moving on to Magneto House of X. This is a reflection of a champion that I think a lot of people just weren't investing in as a 6-star. Again, similar to what's happened to Bishop is you weren't needing him as much anymore for the passive stun because there were mutants that could often take the fight for you, and then they could take a bunch of others, and they had that stun replacement. And again, Onslaught just really came by and took a lot of people's jobs. Now, the thing with Magneto, though, is he's now out as a 7-star, and I think it was Trappy who even did like the big showcase with Magneto, and people are using him in war again, so his war score goes up a little bit, and he does have phenomenal synergies, and often the nodes where you want that passive stun aren't conducive to taking in your Onslaught or your Negationer's Warhead or what have you. So being able to bring him along again has made a lot of sense. His war score went up a little bit, his battleground score went up a little bit, and his meta relevant score went up a little bit. So his champion budget, meaning like the abilities and the way we analyze all that, did not change at all because he just came out as a 7-star. It wasn't a new champion, but he became significantly more relevant in the two biggest, most popular modes, and also in his own meta relevance as far as questing and things like that. Then moving on to Nightcrawler, I did want to call out, he has been demoted, and I'm really glad we kept the dice emoji on him, things like that. And I remember when I did the initial buff video on him, I was very clear, and I was like, I think this is a good champion, but you please keep in mind, you're going to see some eye-opening stuff, and he's very good, just to even be in the hot tier. That is an immediate yes as far as should you rank him. He can be a problem on defense, right, with the evade, and if you have him awakened, I think it's only tech champions can reduce the ability accuracy evade or something. It's a very tricky, weird thing, but essentially I think slow will only work if it's a tech champion. But I advised very much, and I was like, although you're going to see some really awesome things, and the damage is very, very good, there's literally nothing else. There's the evade, okay, so maybe not literally nothing else, but after that, not handling auto block, not handling evade, not handling miss. There's no immunities. So just be really, really aware. And I think everyone who did rank him extremely highly was doing it for Battlegrounds purpose. And we'll talk about that when it's time for the Battlegrounds tier list. Still a very good dual threat champion. Don't get me wrong. Just not making that dominant presence felt as a champion who's in like Scorching or the tier above all, not being used in war or anything like that, and rarely being used in questing content unless you just really want to, which is what that tier can do. All right, that is all for Mutant. Let's go ahead and move on to Science. All right, we have a lot to talk about in Science, so I'm going to try to move pretty quickly through them. None of them require, I think, significant analysis or explanation. Scorpion, this is just the simple process of not available as a 7-star. So as a result, having a little more trouble punching up in higher tiers of war because there's so many 7-star rank 2 and rank 3 defenders. Questing, again, 6-star, so not getting the benefit of being a 7-star. Battlegrounds, same exact scenario, literally throughout this. And again, I'm going to cover this pretty specifically in a video that we have coming out very, very soon. That being said, you can see we have third best Science champion in the game. If you're looking to rank things up and you got a 6-star Scorpion, you see what our general opinion across all these things are. Make sure you configure the tier list though, and you take a look at why and the emojis and all that. Moving on to Human Torch, literally everything I just said about Scorpion, apply it to Human Torch, not available as a 7-star. And I will say, even though I have some thoughts on this, I don't think we're seeing him anytime soon. Luke Cage. I hope you all believe in Luke Cage now. I saw so many of you comment on the Luke Cage showcase video I just put out about a week ago now that, you know, like, thanks for making this. This is cool. Don't show people. They still think he's mid. I was upset when I pulled him from the Titan Crystal, but now I don't feel so bad. Like that thing, that's wonderful. I love doing that. I love making those videos. I know these tier lists are fun and they're very helpful, and I appreciate all the positive comments you guys make. But I know that these showcases and the spicy meter videos are really helpful too. And it's cool when you all tell me stuff like that. It's fun. It's a game. It should be fun. And if we can take a pull that felt really, really bad and then show you like, no, actually, this is a really awesome champion. Handling, ability, power rate, concussion, just turning off nodes, the whole thing. Phenomenal, 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 amazing champion. Can't wait to awaken mine from a Titan Crystal. Like that's one of my most wanted pulls, is just getting him awakened. Moving on to Spider Ham. The reason he's got the insignia there is we did finally bump him up. You'll see that in the Battlegrounds tier list. We've had him at a 9 to 10 in dual threats for forever now. I was one to like literally click on that. You'll see I was doing videos on Spider Ham, I think like 3 years ago. That's how I was like, no, this guy's really good. Battlegrounds just didn't exist yet, right? He's not often used in war because of the way he works. He can be a little squishy and that sort of thing. I know he does have the protection if you accidentally send or the defender doesn't want to throw and they go to a special 3. I think with his spider nonsense, he reduces the damage of a special 3. He has a bit of a protection that kicks in, but it's still pretty scary for your war players, right? They're not looking to do that. Very good in questing though, and we've reflected that, right? The Spider Ham is literally where I came up with the term flow, which is now one of the key components of what we grade for champions in our tier list here. So just to let you know, he's a 5 out of 5 in flow. As far as that means and how it applies to him is like his abilities are just available. It's very difficult for nodes and defenders to throw him off his loop, which is a perfect example why he's so good in Battlegrounds. All these different defenders he's good for that are like trying to block out this champion or that champion or this champion, they can't because his flow is so darn good, right? His abilities are just there. They're present. You get up the stings. He often doesn't even need power. I've shown that in so many videos. So we have promoted him, but I want to make it abundantly clear, and this is why I'm spending so much time on Spider Ham, is I'm starting to see people feel that he's like the best science champion in the game. And I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. There's some subjectivity to all of this, even though there's 11 people in the Illuminati when you include myself, and then the 2 spreadsheet wizards who give their inputs too. It's that there's still going to be subjective, right? It's our experience, how we're playing the game, the way we're playing the game. So I'm not going to come out and tell you like, no, you're absolutely wrong. He's not the best science champion in the game. But I will say, when you put all of our thoughts and ideas in the way we're framing this together, he's not. And I think what's happening is because he is so good in Battlegrounds, and that's what's so frequently talked about, because it's the only competitive game mode that we can play that's constantly novel. Every day it's different based on who your opponent places and things like that. It's the one of the most popular things to stream as a YouTuber. If I do Battlegrounds, more people tune in. And I get it. It's fun. It's a blast. I love Battlegrounds too. But I think that might be warping our opinion of champions just a little bit. And I don't want to see someone, or at least I'd like to do my best to help folks know that unless Battlegrounds is just like your main thing, I think you're often better off ranking up these other champions because they can do a little bit more and they've got immunities and things like that. Spider Ham's still great. If you love him, rank him up, have a great time. But I think he's better in Battlegrounds than he is in the rest of the game. And that's totally a-okay. Just wanted to make sure everyone's on the same page on that. Count Nefaria. Now, I did the video on him and then I took it down because I had something wrong. So I put out a whole new video on him, and a lot of you appreciated that, and I appreciate that too. Right? If I know I'm making a mistake, I'm not going to leave it up there. No way in hell. And so I'm glad we took that down, and I appreciate you all understanding why I did it. I thought that was really cool. This is a great champion, but I meant what I said in that video, and I'll be honest, nothing I've experienced with him, because I've been using him in war, tried to use him in Battlegrounds. I've been watching war videos with him in it. And my thought on him has literally not changed. In fact, if anything, I'm like even more unsure on him. The power when he works, he could be tier above all. I mean, the damage is immense. It is immense and it is quick. The problem is, and as I said in the video, is the need to well-timed block, evade, and then punish a special. So much of that's going to be animation oriented, and we have no clue what Kabam's going to put out. It's not like they came with a guarantee where they're like, every good defender from here on out, he'll be able to evade him, but we just don't know. And I do think you need to take that into account when you're using your resources and ranking them up. The other thing is, unfazed exists. And Nefaria, when everything works, is great in war and Battlegrounds. Well, those are the PvP modes of the game where people are spec into unfazed. I've had war fights with him where it's almost like he has almost no business taking them, and he does it phenomenal. It's like a Sasquatch on an ebb and flow. He's getting rid of my debuffs, but then Sassy pulls off an evade. I get smacked upside the head, almost die. And then I was like, okay, the rest of this fight, I need to be fully aware of that. I need to be on top of it. If you're willing to make that it's not even a risk, but that sort of informed decision so you can play Nefaria, I think more power to you. Have a great time. He's a great champion, phenomenal damage capabilities on all. I think he gets the resistance and stuff. I mean, there's just stuff I'm not even mentioning that he's so good on, but just really keep that in mind that right now I am still not sure if he's a very dominant but niche champion, or if he's a little more well-rounded and can be used in a variety of spaces. And it's just a matter of you playing, knowing that Unfazed may come and smack you upside the head. I think that's only a time will tell. We'll reflect that. I think either way, I'd be hard-pressed to get him into tier above all. And I think his damage is just too good. And he's too tanky. He's got the heal off the SB1 for him to move down into the super hot anytime soon. Moving on very quickly, Red Guardian. Everything I said about Scorpion and Human Torch, as far as just not out as a 7-star, it's coming through with him. I love him. But what I'm finding is without a meta that's like enhancing his damage nowadays, there's too many 7-star rank 3 defenders. There just are. If he comes out as a 7-star champion, he might get a slight bump. I don't know. This is still a phenomenal rating, and the champions above him are very, very good. But we'll see when it comes to it. I still am very happy to have my 6-star rank 5 ascended, but need to reflect that. And we'll talk more about that maybe in the Battlegrounds tier list will come out in a few days. We have 2 more champions we'll talk about in science. The first one is Spot. I'm aware that Spot can do insane damage. I get it. And I'm aware that as a 7-star, you can spec him into the, I think it's the block proficiency, which helps out tremendously. I remember saying for a very long time that I felt that 7-stars were so strong as far as their challenge rating and the ability to have the stat focus that you might not need him at like SIG 200 like we thought we did with the 6-star. I'm seeing the great results being pulled off in Battlegrounds. None of this has changed. I'm aware of all of that. And potentially, if that continues on for a few more months and we start seeing him used in war more again and things like that, we'll move him up. We'll reflect that. That's what we do. We reflect these things. We prognosticate a little bit, but I do more prognosticating in my videos. This is more about reflecting what we are experiencing and what's happening, okay? All the problems with Spot, they'll still remain. You need to be able to get up your spots. You need the defender to still hit into you. One of the big complaints about playing Cassie Lang is that when she shrinks down, the defender just doesn't hit into you. So while the highlights of Spot are great and you can pull them off, and trust me, I love playing Spot. I really do. It almost hurts me to not have him more highly rated, but I absolutely have to reflect and will reflect and continue to reflect what I am experiencing on a day in, day out basis by playing him and what all of the Illuminati are experiencing as well. Totally understand the highlights are phenomenal. You can pull off great things. Massive damage. He's even a relatively tough defender. And so maybe his Battleground score will go up, and that alone will kick him up into the Scorching tier. But if you're good enough and you come here and you're like, no, you're wrong on Spot, I've been doing X, Y, and Z, then you don't need me to put him into the Scorching tier and to reflect that in Battlegrounds wise, okay? When I'm giving all advice and I'm reflecting all of our experience, this is where Spot currently ends up, but I'm very much going to have my eye on him because I love playing Spot. I think he's a fantastic champion, a blast. He has a phenomenal synergy for America Chavez, and it would make me so incredibly happy to say like, no, it's happening consistently enough. We got to move this guy up and reflect it in his meta and his Battlegrounds and potentially even his war score. Very quickly, the last one is Immortal Hulk. He's pretty much working out exactly as we thought he would, which is great. If you uncheck war and you uncheck Battlegrounds, he's going to skyrocket up because that's where he's meant to be. There's literally nothing, unless something specifically changes within his kit, that's going to make him a better attacker in Battlegrounds, because health is something that is a big part of your ultimate score. That's just it. Nothing wrong with him. Great champion. Probably going to be busting heads and Spring of Sorrow and all that stuff for years and years to come. If you enjoy him, rank him up. All right, let's move on to tech. All right, I see how long this video is taking. There just was a lot of updates, a lot of them Battlegrounds, and also new 7-stars coming in. So we wanted to get this out. It wasn't take our time. We're going to do this right. First time we're going to talk about in tech is Shuri. Her war score went down. Thanks for the opinion of MP Blaze. He really went through and just analyzed the war rankings. I really appreciate that. then brought it to everyone's attention, was like, I think she's not as good as we have her currently rated. I'm not seeing it in the high tiers. I went and looked back. I'm playing in tier 3 and 4 BGs. Looked at it, I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm not taking her. I almost never think of her. A variety of other people aren't taking her. And that doesn't mean she's not good. She still actually has a 5 out of 8. That's a great score, but she was at 7. And so just those 2 points, still in the highest tier. She's still phenomenal. She gets a lot of questions from people. I feel like she's like the newest one that people are like, I'm not so sure. You sure? She was phenomenal in Necropolis, guys. Go and use her. And it wasn't just because of her ramp and how much damage she can ramp up to relatively quickly. It was her non-contact attacks. It's her not have her ability accuracy reduced. She was so great for so many of those fights. She's a fantastic champion still. It's just War right now, the way the maps run, the nodes and the defender sets, just not being asked for her as much. And tech has been coming along a lot too, so it's not really that surprising. Moving on to the heck yeah Scorching, right? The first one we'll talk about quickly is Spider-Man Stark. Almost all this is Battlegrounds. Arguably the best Battlegrounds attacker in the game. That's it. We finally seen 7-star rank 3s. The Bullseye nerf, right, and the lack of the bleeds on the decks were significant for Spider-Man Stark Enhanced, because that was one more of the most dominant meta defenders that he can actually take. We have him a 10 out of 10 there. We'll talk more about that in Battlegrounds. That was enough to move him up just slightly. Punisher 2099, gotta say, he's turning out even better as a 7-star than I realized. Really bothers me that I didn't get him Awakened. That's fine. I'm sure I eventually will, and I will take him to rank 3. He can take, we're seeing him take Bullseyes, we're seeing him take Onslaughts. Definitely can be used in War now, especially if you spec into Collar Tech, that whole thing. Great at questing, some really nice synergies as well. Fantastic champion. It's great to see him up there. Just the difference on what can happen when you finally come out as a 7-star, because 7-stars are so strong compared to 6-stars were to 5. And then the other one we'll talk about very quickly is Ultron. He was in this last crystal. I can't even remember what the hell it was called anymore. But if you can get your Ultron, we talked about this in Best Champions to Awaken. We talked about the Saga resources. You can get him Awakened, get him to a pretty good SIG. You are now taking fights that he flat out just couldn't before, right? He's healing back the potential energy damage, a pretty good portion as that SIG goes up. And then incoming shock and incinerate effects suffer all the way up to a potential 80% duration. He has some ability accuracy protection on his whole like Ultron's function ability. So William's been using him to take dominoes. This is a great champion. He even has the debuff replacement when he fights mutants. It goes into a degen, so he's good against non-mutant champions. And then they've given him some extra nice things against the mutants. This is really a fantastic champion. His buff came out at a kind of an unusual time, and wanting that higher SIG to really open up more and more what he could do on a war map. Now as a 7-star with the timing of those Saga resources, I think we're going to continue to see cool stuff. I know we are in Illuminati thanks to William and others. So really pumped about that. Again, this is a perfect example of just his meta score and his battleground score and his war score went up by virtue of being available as a 7-star. We reflect that. We've always had him rated very highly in flow and in champion budget. That's it, literally right there. All right, moving on to the super hot tier. This is a very slight demotion to Penny Parker. She's still a really good defender, still really good in battlegrounds if you can set her up properly. She's just not pulling off as much offensively, right? And this is kind of by virtue of when we talk about meta, is Spider-Man Stark Enhanced, Punisher 29, Ultron. Not that they're taking necessarily the exact fights that Penny was taking, but they are taking fights that you otherwise maybe would have considered for Penny when you think about it in a bigger, broader sense of battlegrounds or war or questing. And if we're, reflecting this as far as rank up consideration, you're better off with these other champions. And there's more and more Nick Fury counters out too, which is what she was really good at. Still fantastic champion, dual immune, Nick Fury counter, really good damage. She can be pretty tanky with her sync shield and all that. So she's still great. You pull her, rank her up, have some fun. You can probably get some great results battlegrounds-wise with her defensively and offensively as well too. But we need to reflect that as far as a general tier list. All right, as we continue to move through, let's just go ahead and get on to skill. Skill class, take a look at it, right? Misty K will be doing the screenshot size that I post every single time on my Twitter feed there, right? So make sure you follow me on Twitter, and thanks to Misty for making it look real good for everybody. There's no changes in skill. Feels really good. Kingpin, I covered the nerf in my video on that. I think he's still going to be phenomenal. It really doesn't, as far as our analysis is concerned, the scores changes literally nothing. I realize there are some cases where it will change how you use them and things like that. But as far as our analysis scores, he's still phenomenal. He's great. If you've got him, rank him up, ascend him, have a good time. Chilith. Chilith is one I want to talk about very quickly because it looks like everyone's going to have a chance to get a free one. She's fantastic, y'all. This video is taking a long time. There's been a lot to talk about. So what I'm going to do is just say, go check out this playlist. It links directly to a playlist by Bitter Steel. He's in so many incredible things with her in war, in long form, even in battleground. She's a great champion. I myself will try to get out a video on her relatively soon. I have mine at rank 2. I love playing her. She's a perfect example of a champion that's more than the sum of their parts. When you're through the kit, you're like, this is very, very powerful. But then you start to actually play her and you realize how many nodes, defenders, and things like that she's fantastic for. Like I said, click on that playlist and then go and have a good time and be really excited about that shield you are getting for just playing the game. Pretty amazing. All right, let's go ahead and move on to our final class in Cosmic. All right, final class in Cosmic. Not a ton to talk about on this one either. Just not a lot of new champion, not a lot of meta shifting or things like that coming along. Hercules, this is literally all the same stuff we've talked about with the other 6-star lock champions. I'll talk about it more in this upcoming video that I've been talking about, and you'll hear my thoughts kind of on Herc. Still great. I'm still so glad that I have my 6-star rank 5 ascended. Saves me items all the time in AQ. That's just literally where he goes, though. Every once in a while, Battlegrounds meta, I'll shove him in there. He can be a bit of a stall defender, too. So I think he's well worth ranking if you're coming up. But if he's someone that you just never have ranked up, I don't know if you really need him. The game's just not asking for him anymore. Either way, if you've got an advanced account and you haven't had a need for him yet, I don't know. I think put your resources elsewhere. Keep ranking up those 7 stars. Irony of ironies is he's still in the tier above all. Literally one of the best champions of the game, 6-star or 7-star regardless. But I've been going through 9.1, haven't used him a single time. Moving on to Scorching the Heck Yeah tier. I thought there was one champion. It looks like there is not, but there it is. I'm glad we called that out. All right, and then in the Super Hot tier, we have 2 champions we'll talk about quickly. The first one's going to be Gladiator. You know, the saga of me and Gladiators, I loved him. I loved his buff, and I called out that the one thing I could see holding me back when he came in game live is trying to use him in the PvP game mode. And that thing that makes you feel a little more pressure to get a little bit better score, to play a little more perfect, to punish things faster. And that if the AI just wasn't really, really working with me, I could see myself just shelving him. And that's kind of what happened, unfortunately. Well, thanks to a lot of you, and OYC in particular, even has been coming onto my Discord server, really talking through with me and Pablo and others about what Gladiator can do, showing very distinct and clear examples in videos and screenshots, write-ups and things like that. And I've actually started using Gladiator a little bit more too. I've really liked what I've been able to get out of Gladiator. I think it's a great, great champion. I think as you calm down and as you get more comfortable, this is kind of what I talked about early in the video, and I talk about every video, is like the champions you enjoy using, you're going to get better results with because you're going to know how to use them. And that's finally starting to happen a little bit. Also, I'm a huge fan of White Tiger. You're going to be seeing some videos on that gal. They have a phenomenal synergy together. So I'm even more motivated to get into my Gladiator. Do not be surprised if in the next month or 2, you see Gladiator right up in the Scorching tier. Based on like what OYC has shown, he really could be there. We could adjust his Battleground score, absolutely for sure. And that would probably be enough to get him to the bottom of Scorching already. This is a very good champion. And then last but not least, we'll talk about Venom Pool. Campo has taken his Venom Pool to rank 3. It's really damn cool. You got to check it out. Keep in mind, folks, especially if you're still relatively new to the game, big picture, I mean, the game's 10 years old. When Venom Pool came into the game, there was serious and genuine debates on who was better, Venom or Venom Pool. Now, Venom wasn't available as a 7-star. They weren't out yet, and neither were Relics. And that has had a lot to do with Venom's power, but also the game wasn't as complex at that time because not as many defenders and things were available. Venom Pool's back, and he's back with the Roar. I really like this champion. Check out Campo's video. It's linked in the playlist there. Great with long form stuff. Tech champions, just absolutely brutalizing them, doing exactly what it appears he was designed to do. All right, that was the tier list. This was the long one. There's a lot of adjustments to talk about. We've had a lot of new 7-stars coming to the game, a lot of champions coming in as 7-stars, and I think we're just getting started. The stuff Kabam's starting to talk about, right? A lot about reworks and stuff like that. The end of the year, the 10-year celebration. You know there's going to be sales. I think the tier list is going to be chock full every single month. I'll keep every other month updating the best 6-stars ranked, the best 7-stars ranked, the best to awaken. We'll cover the saga gems. we're having a blast. I've been putting more and more effort and time and energy into this channel lately, and I gotta say, you all are making it incredibly, incredibly rewarding. Massive thank you to the whole MCoC Illuminati, all the time they spend going through this, giving their feedback, sharing their experience, sharing their knowledge, every single one of them, and the Spreadsheet Wizards for all of their knowledge and experience they share too, and then making this spreadsheet on top of all of that. Massive thank you to all of them. Massive thank you to all of you. As usual, let me know what you think we got right. Let me know what you think we got wrong. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.